She couldn't walk. Not yesterday. Not last year. Not since the night everything changed. The doctors used words that sounded cold and final. Permanent. Irreversible. Best to prepare for a lifetime of limitations. They said it gently, but the meaning was brutal. Her mother heard those words and felt the world collapse inside her chest. Her father heard them too, but something different happened inside him. He didn't argue. He didn't beg. He didn't cry in front of anyone. He simply held his daughter's tiny hand and made a silent promise that no one else in the room believed in. Every morning before the sun rose, the single dad woke up in a quiet house that still echoed with memories of a life that used to be whole. His wife had been gone for years, taken by illness, leaving him to raise their daughter alone. She used to run through the house barefoot, laughing, chasing light. Now she lay still, staring at the ceiling, learning how to smile without moving. He learned how to be both parents at once. He learned how to be strong when he wanted to fall apart. Money disappeared quickly. Specialists were expensive. Tests were endless. Each new appointment brought hope for a moment and disappointment that lasted weeks. Billionaire doctors with shiny offices and framed degrees shook their heads. Some offered sympathy, others offered statistics. None offered answers. Eventually, they stopped calling back. That was the day her mother stopped believing. She began to move through life like a shadow, present but hollow, loving her child deeply yet preparing herself for a future that felt unbearable. The father never said the words, "She'll walk again," out loud. Not because he didn't believe it, but because he didn't need anyone else's permission to try. When the hospital doors closed behind them for the last time, he took his daughter home, laid her gently on the old couch, and looked around at what he had left. A small living room, a few chairs, a floor worn smooth by years of footsteps, and a heart that refused to quit. He began with touch. Every night, after homework and dinner and stories, he massaged her legs with warm hands and quiet focus. He talked to her while he did it. About school, about dreams, about the places they would go someday. She listened, even when she was tired of hoping. Some nights she cried and asked why this happened to her. He never gave false answers. He just said, "We're still here. And we're not done." Days turned into weeks. Weeks into months. Progress was invisible. Pain was constant. The mother watched from the doorway, torn between admiration and heartbreak. She wanted to believe, but believing hurt too much now. She had already learned what disappointment felt like. She couldn't survive it again. Then one day, something small happened. So small it could have been missed. The girl's toes moved. Just a little. Not on command. Not on purpose. But they moved. The father noticed. He froze. He didn't celebrate. He didn't shout. He just kept going, afraid that excitement might scare the moment away. That night, he cried alone in the kitchen with his hands shaking, not from sadness, but from something dangerously close to hope. From that day on, everything changed. The exercises became longer. The days became harder. The pain became sharper. There were setbacks that felt cruel. There were days when her legs refused to respond at all, when exhaustion filled the room like heavy air. The mother begged him to stop pushing her. She couldn't bear to see her child hurt anymore. He listened. He held his wife's memory in his heart and his living daughter in his arms. And he said softly, "I know when to stop. And today isn't that day." The girl learned to sit, then to balance, then to stand, holding on to the edge of the table, while her father knelt in front of her, ready to catch her if she fell. She fell many times. Each fall hurt him more than it hurt her. But every time, he helped her up and said the same words, steady and calm. Again, the day it happened, there was no warning. No music. No dramatic pause. The mother was in the kitchen, staring out the window, thinking about all the things life had taken from her. The father was in the living room, holding his daughter's hands. He loosened his grip just a little. She took a step, one step, then another. Her knees shook. Her breath caught. The father froze, afraid that even a sound might break the moment. She walked. Not far, not perfectly, but she walked. The sound the mother made when she turned around wasn't a cry. It was something deeper, something that came from years of buried grief breaking open all at once. Her knees gave out. She collapsed to the floor, hands over her mouth, tears pouring down her face as she watched the impossible happen in front of her eyes. The father didn't smile. Not yet. He just held his daughter as she laughed and cried at the same time, her legs trembling, her heart racing. Only when he looked up and saw the mother on the floor, shaking with tears, did he finally let himself breathe. That night, the house felt different. Lighter. Like Hope had quietly moved back in without asking permission. The doctors never got the credit. The money never mattered. What changed everything was a father who refused to accept the end of the story as it was written for him. She didn't just learn how to walk. She learned what love looks like when it refuses to quit. And the mother learned something too. Sometimes miracles don't come from power, or wealth, or knowledge. Sometimes they come from a single person who decides that giving up is not an option. And sometimes, that is enough to change everything.